This morning, let's explore freedom from the burden of agenda. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. Welcome to Meditate Like a Jedi. This is the Lama you are looking for. This morning we could chant and meditate and enjoy a lesson or two, but first, if you love Star Wars and you wish to meditate as profoundly as Rey Skywalker on Ajahn Class under the guidance of General Leia Organa, be sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell. This morning, we could explore freedom from the burden of agenda, that you too could meditate like a Jedi. If at any time during this morning's live stream you have a question, there is no need to be shy. Simply type your question in great detail in the chat window on the right-hand side of the screen. Unless you're watching a replay, then you'll want to type your question in the comment area below the video. Today let's explore the 11th passage of Heart's Treasure of the Enlightened Ones, written in the late 1800s by the Tibetan Buddhist yogi Dzogchen Rinpoche, his final meditation manual. This is my adaptation and amplification of the translation rendered by the Padmakata group. Being learned these days might not help the teachings, it could just lead to more debate. Being realized these days might not help others, it could just lead to more criticism. Being in a responsible position these days might not help govern the country well. It might only spread revolt. Think about these times with sorrow and disgust. Sorrow because we feel empathy for the individuals caught up in this momentum. Disgust because we choose not to emulate it. It is very easy, after reaching a certain point in one's knowledge, to be the guy, to be Wally, well actually, the guy who's always offering advice when it is not requested. Or someone who lacks the discernment to know when someone's really asking for advice or just wants you to be a yes man. In Tibet, there's an idea, not unique to Tibet, but the phrase is crazy wisdom. And it's like this. When someone, a man or woman, gets to a certain point of realization, they are so spontaneous in their choices, utterances, and deeds that they appear mad to others. But they are not mad, they are wise, they are not cruel, they are kind. But when people deny the benefit of the doubt, they are sure to rain condemnation upon you. They did that with Lao Tzu. If they did that with the Buddha, they did that to Jesus. What chance have you or I? Being in a responsible position these days might not help govern the country well. It might only spread revolt. I live in America, United States of America, and the first president, George Washington, warned against political parties. Probably because what we see going on right now, people are so caught up in strategy that they're willing to undermine the will of their electorate, of their constituents, simply in the hopes of making the other party look bad. When Party A suggests legislation to reduce gas prices, price gouging, and another party whose constituents are in favor of that vote against that just because they want to make the first party look bad, that type of circumstance where short-sightedness and political maneuvering trump love and empathy and long-term wisdom, it's tough to help govern the country from within. And so whether we want to teach or just be or govern with the best of intentions, the odds of us being effective are very poor. Therefore, if we wish to be peaceful, if we wish to be joyful, like I mentioned 24 hours ago, we must take pleasure from the act of kindness and from the intention of kindness, using kindness as activity and kindness intention as its own reward. For if we base our joy and peace on things beyond our control, we are bound to be heartbroken. Before we start this morning's chanting and meditating, let's pause for approximately 15 seconds of housekeeping. If there are lessons you'd like to request, or if you simply wish to support the continued availability of these classes, there is a Patreon link in the description area below the video. It's approximately 7 minutes after the hour. Let's recite my favorite work by the 3rd patriarch, Verses on the Beneficial Mind. Now, like most things I present, I've adapted it and amplified it occasionally. Hopefully not out of self-importance, just because I wish to aid your comprehension. This is one of my favorite Shastras. I was exposed to this way back in the 90s, and it really changed my life. The great way is not difficult for those who have no preferences. When love and hate are both absent, everything becomes clear and undisguised. Make the smallest distinction, however, and heaven and earth are sent infinitely apart. And that's enough editing for now. If you wish to see the truth and hold no opinion for or against anything, to set up what you like against what you dislike is the disease of the mind. When the deep meaning of things is not understood, the mind's essential pieces deserve to no avail. So what is meant by this? Well, I'm going to do it. Contrary to what I just intended, I'm going to do a quick edit to illustrate this point, hopefully. Do you bear with me? This will take a moment. Okay, here we go. So, let's see, 1, 2, 3, page layout. Okay. So, at the bottom of the page, I've added the primary meditation practice. So we're told that if the deep meaning of things is not understood, the mind's essential peace is disturbed to no avail. So if we want to increase our peace, we need to access the deep meaning of things, and here's how to do it. Emptiness is not to be, if it's to be taken literally, it results in pseudo-intellectual philosophizing and mindless faith, neither of which are helpful. If we take emptiness as something figurative, then it makes more sense. Consider, if you will, neuroscience, specifically our autonomic nervous system. Every time we inhale, we access the sympathetic nervous system, which is wired to observe. To align our intention with this wiring, during each inhalation, we could silently and mentally recite, notice this. Every time we exhale, our parasympathetic nervous system is wired to both physically relax as well as mentally release. In other words, to let go. Therefore, to align our intention with evolution's wiring, during each exhalation, we silently and mentally recite, relaxing. What has that to do with emptiness? When we approach emptiness figuratively, then it is as if whatever we notice during our in-breath, once we start exhaling and relaxing, it could feel as if it was as non-graspable as a vast, empty void. So we see emptiness is nothing profound and metaphysical. It's simply a synonym for non-graspability. Not the way things are, but the way they feel, the way they seem during every exhalation, which is different than the way they feel and seem during each inhalation. So you might say, "What? I don't understand what a vast empty void would be like." And why should you? A simile is only as effective as it is relatable. So let's find something we can relate to the simile, or relate the simile to, and that would be the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which, although is tantalizing to the eye, is intangible to the grasp. So now we get it. Most of us have gone through in the vast expanse of our days on Earth. At least once or twice, we've seen a clear blue sky that's cloud-free. And if you lay on your back in the field, in the grass, on a blanket, and look up at it, it feels tantalizing, yet ungraspable. I've never seen someone reach for the sky and pull back a handful of blue. I've never seen it. So, playing with this deep meaning every 12 hours can lead us to the peace we desire. So let's continue. Now that we know the basic technique, let's continue. The way is perfect like vast space, there's nothing lacking and nothing is in excess. And once again, vast space is inferred. This is a frequent metaphor in Buddhism. Continue. Indeed, it is due to our choosing to accept or reject that we do not see the true nature of things. This is not our fault. We are wired in a very complex way. We have primates, such as humans, have not one but two reward systems. We have an ancient pre-mammalian reward system that is dopamine-oriented, and it rewards for mating and anything that supports mating, including drinking water, eating food, and seeking shelter. It's very, very fundamental, and it's all about pleasure. As mammals, according to some, we have evolved a secondary oxytocin-oriented reward system. Then instead of about being pleasure, it's about happiness and peace and fulfillment. And it rewards for quality relationships, professional, personal, platonic, and intimate. In the second noble truth, the Buddha inferred that although we seem to be swimming in a great ocean of stressors, we have the capacity to make things much, much worse when we indulge the controlling tendencies of our dopamine-oriented reward system. The controlling tendencies to shove at some things or reach for other things or cling to things we already think we possess. These things multiply our stress. They increase the intensity of our stress. The fundamental duality then is either pushing or pulling, or in other words, accepting or rejecting. As long as we are stuck in that dichotomy, according to the Buddha, we're going to forever be exacerbating whatever stresses are thrown at us from circumstance or our own bodies, from relationships or our own minds. Now, there's some people who try using pseudo-spiritual shortcuts and saying the only reason you experience this is because you believe in a self. No. We are wired to respond to stress. Things without a mind, as we know it, things that are non-sentient, react to stress. It is fundamental to our wiring. Buddha never intended emptiness or no self as a way to victim blame. It's just a tool to use to get better at letting go, regardless of the ravings of short-sighted and cruel individuals. So, let's talk about addiction. Addiction cannot be reasoned with. It's not a flaw in morality. It goes back to our brainstem. It is a brainstem dysfunction. It is a dysfunction of the brainstem that is oriented towards gross survival, primal survival. When we are blinded by our survival drives, then we make gross errors in our lives. The great irony is that it's only by exploring the true nature of things that we can break free of this dichotomy. Luckily, we can explore the true nature of things as simply as harmonizing with our own autonomic nervous system, which is so primal, it's actually not even centered in the brain, it's centered in the spinal cord. The sympathetic nervous system is centered in the thoracic spinal cord. The parasympathetic nervous system is centered in both the lumbar and the cervical spinal cords. kind of like an Oreo cookie. Now let's continue with our chanting. Live neither in the entanglements of outer things or in the inner feelings of emptiness. So we don't hold on to just mindfulness. We don't hold on to just letting go. We don't hold on to the in-breath experience. We don't hold on to just the out-breath experience. Just as every in-breath turns into an out-breath and every out-breath turns into an in-breath, we allow our mind and our body to go with that primal flow of respiration. Let's continue. Be serene in the oneness of things, and such erroneous views will disappear by themselves. What is the oneness of things? That everything, no matter how opposite they are when we notice them during the in-breath, have the same taste of non-graspability as we exhale and relax. We experience the bedrock of this universal oneness is simply the primal exercise, the foundational meditation of notice this, relaxing, as we saw a few moments ago over here. And don't worry, we will return to this when we get to the actual meditation. Let's continue chanting. When you try to stop activity to achieve passivity, your very effort fills you with activity. So here's the great irony. You can't plan for spontaneity. You cannot force acquiescence in a sustainable way. But by working with our autonomic nervous system, working with the two phases of breath, inhalation and exhalation, observation and letting go, that's how we slip through the complex wiring of our underbrain. Let's continue. As long as you remain in one extreme or the other, you will never know oneness. Those who do not live in the single way fail in both activity and passivity, assertion and denial. To deny the reality of things is to miss the reality. To assert the emptiness of things is to miss the reality. The more you talk and think about it, the further astray you wander from the truth. Stop talking and thinking, and there is nothing you will not be able to know. To return to the root is to find the meaning, but to pursue appearances is to miss the source. At the moment of inner enlightenment, there is a going beyond appearance and emptiness. The changes that occur the changes that appear to occur in the empty world, we call real only because of our ignorance. Do not search for the truth, only cease to cherish opinions. Do not remain in the dualistic state, avoid such pursuits carefully. If there is even a trace of this and that, of right and wrong, the mind essence will be lost in confusion. So let's clear this up, because this can be vague. The purpose of Buddhism is not to have a bad haircut and weird robes. The purpose of Buddhism is not to win debates with trolls on the internet. The purpose of Buddhism is not to be like Mr. Spock and to repress our emotions. The primary goal of Buddhism is love and peace. If that's our primary goal, not necessarily having the biggest car or the largest house, or the most amazing social media presence, if the main focus is love and peace, then aversion and hate and greed will rob us of that peace. Therefore, we're going to use the fundamental meditation and the fundamental contemplation to keep us on course. Let's continue chanting. Although all dualities come from the one, do not be attached even to this one. When the mind exists, undisturbed in the way, nothing in the world can offend. Whoops, that's an error on my part. Sorry, guys. Coordination failure. And when a thing can no longer offend, it ceases to exist in the old way. When no discriminating thoughts arise, the old mind ceases to exist. So discriminating simply means saying, that sex, I want that. I hate that, I want that. That's all they're talking about. When thought objects vanish, the thinking subject vanishes, and the mind vanishes, and when mind vanishes, objects vanish. Please excuse my tripping over the tongue. Things are objects because of the subject mind. The mind subject is such because of things object. Understand the relativity of these two and the basic reality, the union of emptiness. In this emptiness, the two are indistinguishable, and each contains in itself the whole world. In this emptiness, the two are indistinguishable, and each contains in itself the whole world. If you do not discriminate between coarse and fine, you will not be tempted to prejudice and opinion. To live in the great way is neither easy nor difficult, but those with limited views are fearful and irresolute. The faster they go, the slower they go, and clinging attachment cannot be limited. Even to be attached to the idea of enlightenment is to go astray. What if the path of enlightenment is best traversed not because of a burning desire, but hedonistically, just because it's peaceful and pleasurable and delightful to do so, to traverse this path, to use this fundamental technique. Some people call it a mental margarita when done properly, or a life lubricant. And if there's anything we learned from the late 90s movie Evolution, there is always time for lube. Just let things be in their own way, and there will be neither coming nor going. Obey the nature of things, your own nature, and you will walk freely and undisturbed. So this is kind of spooky. Let's flesh this out. The nature of things, your own nature, or Buddha nature, is just a cryptic way of talking about what neuroscience now describes as three things. Our sympathetic nervous system, in its ability to notice, our anterior cingulate gyrus and its ability to experience empathy, our parasympathetic nervous system and its ability to let go. These three things, noticing, loving, and letting go, that's the key. Plug into that, and everything will take care of itself. Let's continue. When thought is in bondage, the truth is hidden, for everything is murky and unclear. and the burdensome practice of judging brings annoyance and weariness. What benefit can be derived from distinctions and separations? If you wish to move in the one way, do not dislike even the world of senses and ideas. Some people think, man, some people get lost in renunciation. And they try, not to perceive. And they try not to perceive or emote or intend or reason or recall or imagine, thinking it makes them spiritual, but it doesn't. Over here we're talking about the burdensome practice of judging. That's why in the fundamental meditation technique, there's one label, and it's this. Notice this, relaxing. During meditation, the only label we need is this. Indeed, to accept them fully is identical with true enlightenment. The wise man strives to know goals, but the foolish man fetters himself. So, the key of enlightenment is accepting our perceptions and accepting our emotions even when they're painful, to accept our intentions even when they are harmful, to accept our reasoning even when it is fallacious, to accept our recall when it's our imaginings even when they are destructive. Remember, anything that's destructive is made worse by resisting it. That's why we traverse this path of acquiescence. Excuse me. When people talk about 5-year goals, it's obvious they have yet to master the teachings of the Tao Te Ching. For the only goal of the Tao Te Ching is to flow from centered spontaneity. There is one Dharma, not many distinctions arise from the clinging needs of the ignorant. To seek mine with a discriminating mind is the greatest of all mistakes. I can't tell you how many salesmen have reached out to me and said that they wanted me to give them thousands of dollars I don't possess so that they could give me, help me to create canned webinars. I told them that Lao Tzu and the Buddha and the Christ taught for free. There was no admission fee to Sermon on the Mount, to which to work exclusively and non-coercively from donations. And these people, these salesmen will often say that I'm being naive and foolish. Well, what are they saying then about Lao Tzu, the Buddha, or the Christ? Let's continue. Rest and unrest derive from passion with enlightenment. There is no liking or disliking. All dualities come from negative inference. All dualities come from ignorant inference. They are like dreams or flowers in the air. The foolish try to grasp them. Gain and lust, right and wrong, such thoughts must finally be abolished at once. If the eye never sleeps, all dreams will naturally cease. If the mind makes no discriminations, the 10,000 things as they are of single essence. So we regard everything as this. Well, then what's to stop us from eating poisons or walking into traffic? As a fringe benefit of meditation, we are able to effortlessly flow from, or I should say, our choices, utterances, and deeds can effortlessly flow from centered spontaneity. Excuse me. To understand the mystery of this one essence is to be released from all entanglements. When all things are seen equally, the timeless self-essence is richer. No comparisons or analogies are impossible in this causeless, relationless state. Consider movement to be stationary, and the stationary in motion, both movement and rest disappear. Contrary to the ravings of fundamentalists, the path to enlightenment is not paved with our controlling, fearful, rigid, elitist, competitive, or cruel worldviews. It is only paved with the attributes of being flexible, loving, laid-back, egalitarian, cooperative, and kind. Excuse me. So, concentration is a trap, pinning our mind like a butterfly to a piece of cork with a needle is not going to help us become Buddhas. It's going to help us to become angry and pissy and neurotic. When such duality ceases to exist, oneness itself cannot exist. To this ultimate finality, no law or description applies. For the unified mind, in accord with the way all self-centered striving ceases. Doubt and irresolutions vanish, and life and true benefit is possible. Our culture tells us that if we love our spouse, if we love our children, if we love our grandchildren, we will move heaven and earth to acquire the financial means with which to protect them. And that's a wonderful way to manipulate the masses to participate in two-fisted capitalism. But capitalism is not perfect. And communism did not go far enough. Until humanity is predicated exclusively on cooperation and reason, we're going to continue tearing ourselves to pieces. Striving is poison. If someone tells you to strive for wisdom, they are confused. You relax into wisdom by relaxing into your exhalation. Oh, goodness. Excuse me. Okay. With a single stroke we are free from bondage. Nothing clings to us and we hold to nothing. All is empty, clear self-illuminating with no exertion of the mind's power. Here thought, feeling, knowledge, and imagination are of no value. In this world of suchness there is neither self nor other than self. Suchness is a wonderful idea. Suchness is just another way of saying this. Not trying to explain, not trying to control, not trying to control with our labels. Let's continue. To come directly into harmony with this reality. Just say when turmoil rises not to. And this is where we come to our basic contemplation. Un momento, por favor. So let's see here. Got to push the right button in the right sequence. Is this it? Okay. Let's hit copy. Let's go back over here. All right. Let's hit paste. Un, deux, trois. Page layout. Okay, here we go. You've been introduced to the primary meditation, and let us turn our attention to the primary contemplation. We've already explored that as we relax into our exhalation, we experience non-graspability. Now, as we breathe in, this can be very different from that, and that's appropriate. That's appropriate for what goes on during the sensory acuity latent within each inhalation. However, regardless of how different north and south, hot and cold, sharp and soft may be, when we relax into our exhalation, we can ask the rhetorical question, how not to? You can have the most traumatic past, and when you start having flashbacks, get into this exercise. This and that, how not to, really relaxing into the exhalation. And you will experience peace. Un momento. Sorry guys, gotta do another quick edit. That's how life works sometimes. File, save as, here we go. New folder, this is the 29th. This screen is probably going nuts. I will tend to it momentarily, I assure you. I will return you safe and sound back to the Shire. Quote Patton Oswald. Okay. Let's return to button 14. And we're back. Okay, Fabu. So this is the solution. We cruise in meditation. When we hit a patch of turmoil, when it feels like we come up against a wall, we judiciously apply the rhetorical question that is our contemplation. And then within 3 or 4 breaths, we're typically able to return to meditation. It's kind of like being in an airplane. You know, it hits some turbulence, and then you just ascend above the turbulence. And then you return to cruising, you know, which is pretty cool. Things our ancestors would not have imagined. Let's continue. In this not here, nothing is separate, nothing is excluded. No matter when or where, enlightenment means entering this truth. So, as I mentioned, I live in America, which has sadly become the laughingstock of the world. For many reasons, despite the fact the majority of the people want single-payer health care, and we can afford it, we don't get it. because of corruption. So we live in a screwy country, and it's easy to say there are those who want everyone to get life-saving medical care, and there are those who are happy for people not to receive life-threatening medical care. And as we breathe in, the distinction is painfully clear. But as we relax into our exhalation and the rhetorical question, they could feel as if both of them are one in their non-graspability. And so we flop back and forth between conventional and ultimate, observation and release. And Nagarjuna, the great Buddhist philosopher Nagarjuna, referred to that as the two truths. Let's continue. And this truth is beyond extension or contraction in time or space. It is in it a single thought is 10,000 years. And this is a reference to the very poetic 39th chapter of the Avatamsaka Sutra, known as the Vows of the All-Good One. Emptiness here, emptiness there, but the infinite universe stands always before your eyes. So, in other words, just because we experience emptiness does not mean we stop experiencing perception. Infinitely large and infinitely small, no difference, for definitions have vanished and no boundaries are seen. So too with being and non-being, do not waste time in doubts and arguments that have nothing to do with this. There are lots of people who think themselves pious, not only by not meditating, but by causing you not to meditate. One thing, all things move among and intermingle without distinction. To live in this view is to be without anxiety about non-perfection. Consider, if you will, a symbol of contemporary Zen, which is the sloppy circle. Just, you've probably seen it. Let me find it real quick. Now, I'll just push button 8 and look up the Zen circle, the Eno circle. So consider, if you will, the Eno circle. It's just a blotch here, and it becomes very faint as it goes around. And this is referred to as, by some, as perfectly imperfect. Let's get back to the task at hand. To make peace with imperfection is what enlightenment is all about. Will our centered spontaneity influence our choices, utterances, and deeds in ways that are better and better and better? Sure. But pursue it in a laid-back way, the way the dude pursues bowling in The Big Lebowski. To live in this view is the road to non-duality, because the non-dual is one with the yielding mind. Was the way is beyond language, for in it there is no yesterday, no tomorrow, no today. Fabulous. Well, it's approximately 49 minutes after the hour. Let's meditate. So at long last, I turn towards I tap button 9 and take us tonight to this morning's primary practice text. And quick like a bunny, let us practice the love and enthusiasm of bodhicitta and refuge. May I liberate all beings by relying on the Buddha's example, instructions, and students. May I liberate all beings by relying on the Buddha's example, instructions, and students. May I liberate all beings by relying upon the Buddha's example, instructions, and students. And now, at long last, let's meditate. There are many fundamentalists who say if you get tired during meditation, that is a flaw, and you must fight against it. That's lame. The great Chan Master Basho said, and I paraphrase, when you are hungry, eat. When you are weary, rest. How do you know if it's time to rest? Simple. Try this exercise and see if it doesn't work. Sleepy and peppy, how not to. Do this 4 times, and if it doesn't make you feel like you can sit in meditation, then go rest. Be kind to yourself. Some people, some of them well-meaning, try to use belief as an end run around meditation. There is no end run around meditation or contemplation. You cannot believe yourself out of samsara, because belief fundamentally is rigidity. It's grasping at an emotion, it's grasping at a thought, or an image, or some sort of mental construct. You cannot grasp your way to letting go. You can meditate and contemplate your way to nirvana. Some people are scared of taking an inauspicious rebirth, but in the numerical discourses of the Buddha, it is written that those who train in love will always be guaranteed an auspicious rebirth. Perhaps that is one of the reasons we begin our practice with the recitation of love and enthusiasm, with the loving wish, may I liberate all beings. That's very loving. And we always conclude with the four immeasurables, which are very loving wishes. So practicing every 12 hours, practice every 12 hours, and you will successfully train your mind in the love that can ensure an auspicious rebirth, if there is such a thing. Let us train in love and ethics. May all beings practice of kind communication, conduct, and calmness flow spontaneous and uncontrived. Let us bring love into the path of the four measurables. May everyone may everyone be free from stress. May everyone be happy. May no one be separated from the happiness. May everyone have balance from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging freed. Approximately 10.5 hours, we could return to explore heartbreak, release, and meditation, as well as chant and meditate some more. Until then, may you and yours be happy and healthy. And if you are as geeky as me, this is the way.